Right, there's an ending conversation and debate here about the Senate and the National Assembly.
Babysat by the courts.
Honorable Cheng thinks that the Senate is being babysat by the courts.
No, it was deliberate to make sure that the Senate is emasculated to make sure devolution fails.
Okay. And the debate continues. Let's take a look at the feedback that has come to us.
This sounds like
Kenya,
a
Sam Gituku, the hashtag to use is a daybreak, particularly on that first conversation we just had about the Finance Act of 2023 and the decision at the High Court. J.M. Musoma, Kenyans have put their hope in court after Parliament failed us by passing Finance Act 2023. If Senator Mutata's petition doesn't see the light of the day, Kenyans might heed Azimio's call for civil disobedience. Life is tough out here. Punda Amechoka. That's Musoma. Well, how do I read that name? Authors, I guess. Honorable Malim, the courts in America will not stop implementing of their budget because the American budgeting system will always follow their laws in letter and spirit.
Yes.
Engineer Lazaro, Honorable Farah Malim, the courts are the only known true arbitrator in undecisive legislative nation like Kenya. We are all aware our parliamentarians stand to be voting machines and rubber stamp. Ooh, okay. Magwas. The Finance Act 2023 was the most controversial bill. It was subjected to adequate public participation, and over 93% of Kenyans rejected it in its totality, but the government forced on people despite protestation. The court did a commendable job. I don't know how you're counting that 93% support. Again, Honorable Lilian Sioe, the decline by courts to lift suspension of the Finance Act 2023, it's not 21, is economic sabotage because it means government cannot raise taxes and to get revenue to run government operations, including functionality of judiciary. The fact is that the government will actually continue to collect taxes, just not on the basis of the Finance Act 2023. Bob Otieno, delay of Finance Act is really hurting the government as they are losing millions of shillings they were targeting to get from 1st of July 2023. And so that's the feedback so far that we've received as far as that is concerned. And of course, we wait to see the direction that takes. It is up to the Chief Justice to constitute a panel of 3 judges. Now, Senator Onyonka and Honorable Cheng, your mics are hot. We now transition to the topic about
Sorry, Sammy.
Okay. The future of the IEBC, because the bipartisan talks appear to have stalled. And one would assume that the natural fallback would be go back to the selection panel that was had actually received applications for IEBC. Senators, should they proceed on with the recruitment?
Some of us have been thinking that there's a possibility, there could be a likelihood that the interested party, and that is Azimio vis-a-vis the KK Alliance, would actually reasonably sit and continue discussing so that we can agree on the way forward. The reality I see, I don't think the talks are going to generate any serious result out of it. It's very, very unfortunate. I think our country has got certain outstanding issues which need very serious interrogation and most probably solution. But it looks like it's as dead as a dodo. So I will tell you, Sami, I am a pessimist now. I was a little bit optimistic when the discussion started in terms of looking at what are the gaps that we could fill even with the referendum come. But given the political environment we have right now, which is so toxic, I don't see much happening out of this.
What do you mean toxic environment?
I think painfully, I begin to see our country degenerating to a hostile environment where, again, we are seeing 2 very diverse, extreme groups that feel that the democracy we have is about the winner taking it all, where our side as the opposition, either by error of mission or commission, we are finding it very difficult to understand what is going on. I mean, you can see when we were passing the law, the bill before the last elections about political parties, you see the ruling coming out. That's why I'm saying, let's not even today you talk about the judiciary making a ruling for you which you're happy with, and then tomorrow when they make an opposite ruling on a matter that you hate, then you again start talking about them. I would have thought that the issue in Jubilee would have been won by Kenakioni, but the registrars come up and said, no, it's within the mandate of these people to take over this. So should I then now continue screaming and insulting the ruling, or should I either want to go to the Court of Appeal and most probably get a reprieve there? Number two, the second issue that I was bringing in, Sami, about the toxicity of our politics right now. I was in Kisii, and I went through a place, a hotel actually owned by my family, and the UDA members were there. And I just went and said, hello, how are you? Please, you continue what you're doing. We are in a democracy, even though this is my area. You are welcome. And there's nothing, you know, I'm still in the opposition. I've not joined you. They were very courteous and very friendly. My ODM people want to lynch me. You know, that I've crossed over, I've now gone to the presidency, and I'm trying to ask for handouts. And I feel that this degenerate kind of political environment we are creating is really devastating to our country. I just think that we can do it better. I think we can discuss matters amongst ourselves. Me and David Ucheng can actually sit, deliberate, and David educates me, and he tells me this one, I think we could. But now I'm being forced to start choosing friends. That if David is on the KK Alliance, I should actually not even be seen with them. And I'm saying, let's move out of there. The democracy that we were fighting for, I should be friends with Farah Maalim, who's my senior. I should engage him ideologically and even philosophically on a matter without it being personal. Okay. But we are drifting ourselves to such a deep end. I'm really worried about our country.
Honorable Kagiri, so we appear to be stuck because the IEBC as a commission by March next year should have finished the review of boundaries, because those boundaries were last reviewed in March 2012. So next year it will be 12 years since. The Constitution talks about they have to be reviewed between 8 and 12 years. Never mind that even if they are reviewed, they'll be implemented in the election of 2027. But you know how contentious and issues can be, and how people fight over especially emotive issues like the boundaries. So we are delaying certain constitutional duties of the commission, yet the politics are not resolving it. Where do we go from here if the bipartisan talks that are supposed to look into that question of the composition of the selection panel, not even the commission, selection panel, it's not moving?
Sam, I share the concerns of my colleagues on the state of our country at the moment. And I would want to take you a few months back after the elections. And I remember when the current president was sworn in, I remember the other team saying they are going to make it unmanageable for him because they feel that it is them who had actually won the election. And if you observe what has happened since then, as a country, that is actually what they are executing. Because just as Senator has said, if you look back to a year ago, in fact, I remember sometime in May last year, Honorable Raila Odinga was at a place in Kisumu, launching affordable houses by LAP Fund. I think a place called Makasembo or something like that. And I remember him saying that's a very good initiative by the government. It needs to be supported. In fact, the one point I agreed with him is because he said the houses were too expensive at 1.5 million and they needed to be brought down to less than $1 million. So months later, or almost a year later, the same group of people are supporting what is happening in the courts, say what the court has ruled is in their favor, and they're so glad that it is happening. So again, you wonder, the actions we are taking up in this country, are they genuinely for the common mwananchi, or just genuinely for personal interests or selfish interests? When you speak about the issue of the IEBC, of course, we are getting out of time. And I believe it is in the scheme of plans for us to run out of time, and then again it becomes a legal issue later, and eventually the country just becomes unmanageable with whatever is currently happening. I would also want to state the same people we are talking about are now moving around the country telling people about collection of signatures. Again, another fallacy to the common mwananchi, because a president can only be impeached from parliament and the process completed at the Senate. Why would somebody today tell a common Mwananchi that by him putting in his signature, he's going to send a president home? Of course, it is still another situation being created in the country for people to lose confidence in the presidency and for the country to become
We'll get to that conversation. Yeah. I just wanted to hear what your views are about IEBC, because we appear to be stuck as a country. Honorable Cheng, what do we do about this?
You know, when the president and the leader of Azimio spoke sometime early in the year, I was very optimistic, because...
You know, they kept insisting that they didn't speak.
No, but, I mean, we were here. One spoke at 10 a.m., the other one within 15 minutes, 20 minutes spoke. So, you know, we are adults.
It was in the evening, not
what I mean is the difference in the timings of speaking was they're synchronized. And one thing they agreed upon was this issue of IEBC. And sometimes, you know, Sam, I wonder, I teach negotiation skills sometimes in my free time. And you acquire, when you are negotiating, there are things you acquire and keep and say, hii nimepata. Sasa tuende kwa hii ingine. I thought this was a very low-hanging fruit for Azimio. Because it's one area where the president even had conceded that on this matter of IEBC, if you guys have ideas, and he said in his statement, if you guys have ideas that can make this process, in your opinion, more representative, go ahead, talk about, agree on how to deal with it. But what happens? We go into the bipartisan talks, and instead of focusing on the issues that matter to you, you bring in something that is so amorphous called cost of living. How do you deal with the cost of living in a bipartisan talk? And you make that as an issue that must be dealt with before you go to other issues. My take on this matter is that Azimio was being accommodated outside the legal framework, because you already have a law on how IEBC should be constituted. And I would advise those who are concerned, the president already is functioned as official in terms of how IEBC should be constituted. His job ends at appointing the panel. He comes back when he's given the names of the commissioners. Between now and that time, by the way, and I want to ask the president to lay off his hands on this matter. He should let the law now take its course. The panel that was set up, by the way, also has been very magnanimous. Without a court order, without anything stopping them, they went slow on the process to see whether the bipartisan talks would yield something. Also being patriotic, in my opinion. Because nothing stopped them from going ahead with the process. But they said, okay, there seems to be some talks that may have a bearing on what we will do. So instead of going ahead and then later being told to go back, let's wait and see what happens. I think they've done well in that regard. By being patient and giving the bipartisan talks a chance. Were they
instructed to, or they just decided?
Whichever way, the fact that after receiving applications, they decided not to proceed the process, whether they were because again, by the way, Sam, the chair of that commission is not bound as we speak. He's not bound by what the president tells him or what Azimio tells him. He's bound by the law.
That's why I'm asking that question.
And that's why I said...
Just hold on. The IEBC Act provides on how panelists speak.
Yes.
It provides on how they advertise, how they receive those applications, how they shortlist, and how they do the interviews.
Yes.
They had actually gone all the way to receiving the names. I think they were just about to do the shortlisting. Then they stopped. So that's what I'm asking. If indeed this was an instruction from the political circles, then how independent are they as a selection panel?
No, I look at it differently personally. Because we live in this country. If, for example, the panel that are established, because you are here and you're being told what you're doing is under contest, it's good to have it would be good to have a hard head and say, let's proceed nevertheless. But they said, this thing that's happening here could have a bearing on what we are doing. So can we lay our hands off a bit, see how this process goes? I believe, for me, that was patriotic in the sense of giving, because that time was like what we are going through now. Last Friday, Sabasaba, now tomorrow we are being told another process. So if something could be done to slow down those tempers, it would be good to do it. And that's what that panel did.
Okay.
Where I'm sitting today, I would advise them to proceed with their job. Let them go ahead, shortlist, interview, and give the president the names, so that this process...
Despite that being contested by Azimio?
No, but you see, so far, how many months is it? And how long can this be held out? Yeah, and so I believe that every side has been given a chance on this matter to do what is best.
Okay.
But if those talks are suspended, no one knows when they'll be brought back. Okay. And that's why I'm saying I would advise the president and advise the chairman of the panel on this issue of IBC commissioners being appointed. The chairperson of the panel should stop listening to anybody going forward. Go ahead with your job, shortlist, interview, present the names of the president. Wash your hands off this matter.
They should stop listening to
anybody. Anybody, let them listen to the law. No, not including to the...
So after the advice, they shouldn't listen to...
No, I mean, let me say it a different way. Let them follow the law.
Okay.
And listen to the law only. Let them listen to the law only on this matter, because we are teetering on the brink on this matter, Sam.
I hear you.
Because, for example, if today, and we got a number of county assemblies that are not constituted fully because members have died or people have been removed by the courts, they can't do elections. And God forbid, if something happened today that requires the IBC to act, who acts? So I would advise that the panel goes on with what it's supposed to do. Let them finish their job. Let the political posturing go on, but the law is followed.
All right. Honorable Malim, what should they do now?
The nominations are done by institutions. The bulk of the nominations are done by institutions. And that's how we decided to give this role to independent other institutions. In some other jurisdictions, when a Republican is a president and there are openings in the Supreme Court, you can rest assured he's going to look for conservative judges to put in there who are amenable to that president's ideological persuasion. But the Democrats cannot rush out there and say it's unfair, he's brought so many of this. It is basically it's institutional, constitutional, and the process cannot always be fair to you. I remember Thurgood Marshall wanted to retire, but he was waiting for a Democrat president so that he can retire and be replaced by another Democrat. But now it was getting too late. No Democrat was coming in every time he bets on the next election. Then finally, he had to leave because you can also die in office there. And that's how Clarence Thomas was given that position. He left when there was a conservative president. And he brought in a black conservative. This is right. So if this thing the reason why we decided we're going to have a term of tenure for the IEBC of 6 years is to give them an ample opportunity to conduct an election and then to move out.
Right.
And then who takes the center stage in that? In terms of going through that one, the president who is in power at that time. But there's no presumption who's going to be in power. We don't know. You see what I mean? And in any case, because ours was not a very surgically clear-cut conservatives or what you call progressives, our party issues have kept on shifting.
Right. Every
other day we had. So it was more of individuals, personalities. And these are the same personalities, by the way, who have dominated politics in this country from the 90s. Same. For lack of a better word, you can call them regional kingpins or warlords. But keep on changing the party from one party to another, one coalition to the other. So it's not more out of what is in it for this country. It's more out of what is in it for that political class, which is negotiation. And then you can always create an anarchy and say, no, we'll go out into the streets. Now imagine the current president of the US, Biden, there's an opening in the Supreme Court, or they want to, whatever, constitute any other body together which is supposed to be independent, but the sitting president always has a role, and the other side goes out into the streets and says, you can't feel it because you're partisan. It's by nature. In politics, people are partisan. But then the fact that you have numbers in here, or you have a role in a situation in which you think somebody may be amenable to your own or your liking can be there, when we have taken all the precautions initially of those independent institutions to nominate their people. And then you still say that, you know, we still find a way to say that even the Supreme Court is either corrupt or it is partisan. So we cannot have a life like that in this country, where anytime there's an issue to be done, then we look for a political process, we go out into the streets, there's a problem, there are violences like the ethnic violences of the 90s and the rest of it, and then we come back again and negotiate. Hang on a minute, negotiate. And say, okay, we let the leader of the opposition come and the government decide, and now we negotiate a settlement. I don't think that's the way we want this country to go for posterity. Okay. So in my opinion, as David Cheng has said, whether it's going to be favored, look, many of us have been rigged out a number of times, but we took it with a stride. You see what I mean? Because we're on the other side. So
the panel should proceed to...
The panel should proceed, constitute this thing. We will look at it. Let those independent bodies, as much as possible, exercise their independence.
Okay.
Even after they've exercised, people are going to come out and say that they are not that thoroughly independent or so-and-so has taken money. The same way Onyonka was saying now. A whole senator, who is the member of parliament in this country who needs to go and pick up a small handout from somewhere, by the way? With the kind of, what do you call, benefits we have, the kind of salary we have, which who needs that? And then who is the one who is not a business person? I have been in the opposition all my life, all my life. Listen to me carefully. I was in Ford, Kenya. Then I went to Safina. When the likes of my good friend Raila Odinga joined with the merger and these things, I was still on the other side. When you said Kibaki Toshe and everybody went, I went to Nyachai because I did not like the way the process was done that time. And we were saying, what to wengi sana, and the only people we had were Kisis and Somalis, and we don't go far with that, you know what I mean? But it's still, we stood by principle. Today, I am not in the government. You listen to me carefully. But what we need for this country is a system that works. Okay. And if it's not favorable to you, accept it with a stride and proceed on. You want to make money, go to business.
So you say you've always been in the opposition?
The only sitting member of parliament, the only sitting member of parliament today, who has for all those elections from 1992 has always been in the opposition. You understand my point? I've never been in the government.
Is it by choice or is it a consequence of...
By principle, by political principle and my own, you know, I stood by my ideals. Which all
right. I hear you, Honorable Malim. Yeah. Senator,
I just want to
go to the next
do an addendum to him, including me.
Yes.
I've also been in the opposition.
No, but you're not there in 1992. 92 was your father was there with me.
Yes.
And he was in Kanu.
That's debatable.
I want, just hold.
Last time you were in Jubilee, weren't you?
No.
He's never been.
I've never been in Jubilee.
He's never been.
I've been in ODM, PDP,
Ford Kenya,
yes.
ODM.
Yes.
I've always been in the
opposition. Yes.
Now, I want to just raise 2 points. I know
but it was not there in the 7th Parliament. I was there in the 7th Parliament. The oldest in Parliament today.
I hear you. Let's hear, Senator.
I want to really plead with my colleagues. What is it that is wrong with our politics? What is wrong with our politics is that even when we look at it, and I've clinically listened to what Honorable Farah Maalim is saying, in terms of the historical genesis of the events, and particularly the involvement of the opposition leader who's Raila and everybody else, the truth is, Honorable Farah, Kenya has come a long way. Many of you and many of us and many other people have played a very critical role to make sure that this ship kind of keeps moving in the sea. But I am really discouraged to listen to both of you say that all that is required to be done, because the institutions that exist can actually go and play their role and make sure that the commissioners are appointed, and essentially that is it. If you get the best qualified people, and if those institutions, for example, say that these individuals can come from wherever, it doesn't matter. My point is very simple. That only works if you think Kenya is safe. That only works. In politics, if you are going to take this issue of our elections and saying it does not matter, you proceed, go and pick the commissioners and allow them to run elections irrespective of what anybody thinks. The truth is, this country is split down the middle. If you look at the figures, President William Ruto won the elections with 51%, Raila kept his 49%. I don't know whether those figures still remain the same. Our issue is every 5 years, we are solving a problem which we can't, because we always solve a problem the wrong way. We are looking at the issue of IEBC commissioners. We are looking at the issue of the elections of our country. Can you say today that actually we don't have a critical problem, especially with the elections of the presidency. And I think it's fair for us, for some of us as leaders who actually have the experience, to try and push ourselves a little with more mileage, so that we can then come up and lay down as the appointment and selection of these commissioners is taking place. We need to be consultative and engaging so that we can then have, even when you may, I've heard Honorable Farah talk about when a Republican decides to appoint a Chief Justice, if he has the numbers, there's nothing you can do. But my point,
Justice of the Supreme Court, Chief Justice,
yes,
is
Chief
selected
Justice of
by
the Supreme
themselves.
Court.
Yeah.
But the point,
Justice.
The point I'm also making is, shouldn't we engage ourselves as people who want the country to be managed in a smoother and a fairer manner, in engaging ourselves and discussing what we can do?
Okay.
Have we accepted, just hold on, Ochieng, have we accepted the international best practice? What have we done for the last 10 years since the Constitution was implemented? What have we done that either is advantageous to all Kenyans, or what can we do to improve on how our elections take place and how we pick the commissioners? And for example, some of the issues which have come up, leave alone the IEBC commissioners. Why are we transmitting elections from the rural areas to Nairobi? Why can't we have regional county figures which are being tallied on the ground, so that you can have a figure of the president who has won from this county and say the amount of votes that are coming in from this, and that is what is, if you need to transmit it to the headquarters, you can do it. There are certain basic improvements we can do.
What's wrong with the current system?
What I'm saying is, in the current system, we have been having a problem on the transmission.
It's not foolproof.
It's not foolproof. So
and that's what we should be discussing in this country.
Exactly.
Electoral.
It's not even commissioners.
Don't worry about. You look at India, for example. They have 700 or 800 million people voting in a day.
Yes. By 3 commissioners.
By 5:30 in the afternoon, everybody knows what's voting.
But Sam, the issue. Let me say something on this, because the issue.
But nobody's talking about that.
No, the issue for Kenyans is the trust deficit. Because if you are to go to what Honorable Nyonka is saying, this IBC that left was a very worse legal regime. And it was done by Uhuru and Raila. And they said it's
No. Even William Ruto was there. No.
Can I have my
you know, this Raila thing.
Nyonka, allow him.
Please. I'm just saying, I wish you could leave Raila out of it.
No.
Allow Ochieng to say what he has said.
I'm allowing him.
You cannot keep saying.
I am allowing
Kenyans, you cannot keep saying that Kenyans must have this. Within the last parliament.
Yes.
When the law was changed in a very terrible way to allow the president of that time to appoint commissioners almost single-handedly. The 4 commissioners that were appointed the last time, but we could clearly say that this was brought by so-and-so, the 4 of them. We know who brought so-and-so, we know who brought...
and the ones being appointed now? And the ones being appointed now?
Nyonka, please, let him finish.
You could tell...
Can we have a system that does not...
At that time, you could tell who brought in... Commissioner Madenge, you could tell who brought in Commissioner Nyagaya, you could tell who brought in Commissioner Masit, you could tell who brought in you could easily tell that. You could tell who brought them in.
It was negotiated.
It wasn't negotiated at all.
It was.
It was the law, and by the way, that law, Nyonka, was nullified by the courts. And that's why, can I have my chance, please?
Yes.
The law was nullified by the courts. And that's why we had to change the law to now bring this new panel and bring in so many institutions that have now been brought on board. The panel now consists of not just religious leaders, but all the professionals. So you cannot, for me, tell me...
Which professionals?
We have LSK there.
It was still there?
We have Kotu there.
No, they're not.
I think the employers
are there. It's the political parties liaison committee.
The committee that was brought in that was not there before.
Service Commission.
That was not there before. Yes.
Go on.
Yes.
Go on.
But the point.
Inter-Religious Council.
Inter-Religious Council, Public Service Commission.
Law Society of Kenya 1.
Law Society of Kenya.
Parliamentary Service Commission 2.
The point I'm trying to make here is this: that the court said that the way it was that time, where Public Service Commission played a very big role, gave the president a very big hand in the appointment. So the idea was to remove the hands of the presidency in those appointments. Hence the new law that we passed. Now, it's not possible to tell, in my opinion, now who the commissioners will be. But what the Azimio is saying, which could be true, is that we want a process that can assure us that it's going to be fair and free. And that's why I said earlier that I thought that in the bipartisan talks, if they could have acquired only that one, and said, on this matter, let's deal with it, because it's an urgent matter for the country. These are our proposals. Remove the religious council, put so and so. Remove Parliamentary Service Commission, put so and so. And we are willing to go ahead and pass the law so that we're able to appoint commissioners. But the biggest issue on our elections, Sam, it's not even the commission, in my opinion, because we've changed the commission so many times that we don't even know the shape of it. The issue is trust deficit. That even if elections are free and fair, they're only free and fair if you want them. If you lose them, the IEBC is bad, the citizens are bad. So we have to work on our trust, our trust as a country, on our institutions, not just IEBC, but the courts, Parliament, IEBC, and everybody else who carries out public function.
Sammy,
yes, and I want us to transition also to talk about...
Can I just raise 1 second? When Kriegler wrote his report about why elections were being bungled in Kenya, have we done even 10% of what he recommended?
No. Can we do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we use that as a basis?
As a basis to change the mess we are in?
Nobody, tell Omaima. Tell Omaima, his first name is Omaima, I'm sure you don't know him. Tell Omaima.
No, I know it.
Tell Omaima,
yes.
Let him go back to our friends in Azimio. Let us only push for a fair system. Look, in America, how many millions have voted? 400 million. Yes. It's a country of 480 million. And as the voting is being closed, as booths are closing, you read the results on the screen there.
Yes.
Can't we invest in a foolproof digital system that essentially, and the results are there, and when as people are voting, if you're standing for game, like my brother here.
Ugenya.
You're in Ugenya?
Yes.
Why did I think it was game? Anyway, you are running in Ugenya, and then by 5 o'clock you can see your numbers on the screen.
Yeah.
As everybody votes, and they vote Ochieng, or in my case, whoever, and then you can see that. That's what we need to invest in more than anything else. The debate right now, instead of talking about, listen, let me tell you one thing. The debate in the country right now, and this is what I've been calling for the longest myself, should be, how can we have a free and fair election that is uncontestable?
Okay.
And
you'll never have that anywhere.
No.
Never have that in the world.
And the software.
You never have in the world. You can never have elections.
It's there. It's there. They do it in India. They do it in the US. They do it everywhere.
They contest in their own way.
You know, Honorable Malim, I find it very interesting that you're sending Senator Onyonka to Azimio. Why not yourself?
I've said, I'm the deputy party leader in Wiper, and I tell my folks and my friends all the time that. And by the way, Wiper
why won't you speak to the
Wiper is the most democratic, party we have in this country.
So why would
where the party leader and his deputy can take positions that are at variance.
So why would you
where the best demonstrations were conducted by my party leader in Machakos without a single person. People were selling, shops are open. People
that's what I'm asking you, Honorable Malim.
You see what I mean? They will not learn from us.
All these
now he's on the other side himself.
You can see Sammy.
Honorable Malim.
Sammy protects.
He's on the road.
Honorable Malim, with all this wisdom, why won't you speak to the Azimio leadership? Because they're the ones who are pulling out of the bipartisan talks.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
As far back as 2007, when we were actually having problems and the country was almost collapsing, and we were coming to an accord. My position was that let's have this accord. Let's have a government of national coalition for 1 year only, or maximum 2 years, and let's get the systems right.
Okay.
And my whole idea was that so that a winner is the winner and a loser is the loser. And at that time, among other people, I remember very well, Raila talked to me, Orengo talked to me, William Ruto talked to me. And we were all together in ODM. And they told me, because I had been elected as the deputy speaker, and they told me, no, let us do this from inside. At that time, because they did not want any dissension on that national accord. And I intended to dissent. My whole idea was that let this country not be a country, a nation of personalities, of men and women, and their stature is bigger than the country. Let it be a country of systems and laws, for God's sake, regardless of who is there.
Okay, I hear you.
But we have turned this into a country of warlords.
I hear you, and I see how you've walked away from my question. But it's fine.
I've said that many times, that who listened to me?
No, I asked why wouldn't you speak to Azimio? You didn't answer.
But I've talked. Azimio is not just ODM and what is the other parties. But I talk to my folks. I tell them exactly what we should do.
Let's listen to Raila.